Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Sonic Blast! In the last part we start off the game and, as usual with the Game Gear games, now we're gonna go finish it off because seriously a lot of these games are so stupidly short. And now we're in Blumarine, my least favorite zone in the game. Get this, it's a water level. And there's a lot of invisible currents that are gonna push you along into the tubes and such, and that sucks. Act 1 is actually really short though if you know where to go, especially if you know how to jump here and don't get sucked into another water current. Now the thing is, for the most part, Sonic speed in this game is, I'd say, passable, but underwater here in Blumarine, it gets slowed down by roughly half, and it's just a chore to control. Your momentum's even more whacked up than it usually is, and honestly, whenever I play this game myself, I usually play through the game to this point, reset, and then do the level select code to skip Blumarine, because honestly, I don't like this zone at all. Mind you, I rarely played this game to begin with, but still. And unlike a lot of Sonic underwater levels, you really do, if you're not being careful, need to use the bubbles to get extra air, because otherwise you will die. In fact, the bubbles are also a bit more scarce in this world too, so be a bit careful about that. Make sure you grab one anytime you see one. Also, that checkpoint back there is really redundant because the end of the level's right here. Why? Why is that such a weirdly placed checkpoint? And with that, now we're on to Act 2, which is all my problems with Act 1 multiplied by 6, because this level's like 3 minutes long. I hate this level. Anyway, as for that level select code I was talking about earlier, it's actually the only cheat code you have in the game. At the title screen, you press up, 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 down, 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 1, 2, 1, 2, start. I'm not sure what 1 and 2 were replaced with in all the collections that this game was in, because honestly, I don't like to go back to play this game at all. But that's there. I guess if you wanted to go to the end of the game really quickly, you can just do that. Mind you, I'm not sure if, like certain other like Sonic level selects, if it allows you to access the best ending stuff. Because this game does something similarly to a few other Sonic games, where the main thing you get for getting all the Chaos Emeralds isn't Supersonic. It's mostly just some added content along with a slightly altered ending. But we'll see that in about 17 minutes. Oh, and yeah, this game's also really short. But in this game's case, I think it actually makes some amount of sense because the sprites, even though they're not the best looking, are pretty intensive for a Game Gear. And in fact, on the whole, the game is pretty intensive on the Game Gear system. So I wouldn't be surprised if they really filled up the cartridge really quickly. I can tell that there was definitely an attempt at making something interesting here. It's just the fact that it didn't work at all. Also, this stage is actually really short if you're just going for the Chaos Emerald, if you're just going for the exit, but if you're going for the Chaos Emerald, it actually gets slightly longer. Because the thing is about this level is that it is very much so a labyrinth. And if you know where to go, it's not too long. But going to the Chaos Emerald requires you to get it, obviously, first, and then replay maybe roughly a third of the level. Which isn't all that bad, but it could have been better. Press this switch, and now we have access to the special stage. There's also some not hidden walls, fake walls you can pass through in order to get some small shortcuts. Not that it really matters. And there's the special stage. Special stage 4 is more of the same. Nothing really interesting. Mind you, you could say that on the whole game, though I just realized how freaking fast are the winds right now, if not Sonic himself, to make the clouds move that quickly. Huh. Though mind you, it would actually appear that Sonic's just on some type of giant rotating ball floating in space, because we're not getting any closer to that mountain. One thing I think that could have made this game a bit more interesting is if they gave each character some slightly different special stages. Like, I'm not just talking in terms of layout, I mean in terms of obstacles as well. Or even in terms of look, because say it took a bit of a Knuckles and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 kind of approach, where Knuckles and Sonic had technically the same but also entirely different special stages, that would have been very interesting. But nope, it's all the same. And now we're back towards where where I was talking about things earlier. Brain functioning lower. Wow. Don't you hate it when your brain just stops functioning for about 2/3 of a second, causing everything to go out of whack? That's 90% of my existence. One thing, though, I think when you're in the tubes, I think you actually don't lose any air. So if you're in the tube, you're completely fine, although I'm not sure if the countdown will continue either. Hold left here, by the way, once you can, because that way you can actually avoid getting hit by a surprise octopus from below. God, that sounds like my worst nightmare, being allergic to the damn stuff. Once you're at this checkpoint, you're pretty much there, thankfully. There are a few more opportunities for you to get lost and possibly even have to retrek through a certain amount of the stage if you're not being careful. But if you know where to go, this level isn't that bad, but it's still the worst level in the game, by far. This level is also a lot harder as Knuckles, because Sonic's double jump, as I mentioned before, is so much better than Knuckles' glide, it's honestly kind of ridiculous. Because there are some walls that you just won't be able to climb up to, and thus making platforming as Knuckles a lot more annoying, to say the least. Either way, we're through Act 2, now we're on to Act 3. Which is almost the polar opposite of Act 2. Most of the time, aside from the boss fight itself, you're actually above land. Well, technically speaking, you're above land. You're above sea level. Though, it's still a very short act. I do somewhat wish that they tried to make each level a bit more distinct in terms of gimmick. Because that would have made the levels a bit more interesting to play through, but on the whole, they didn't, and the game suffers because of it. All the stages, aside from maybe Blumarine's water gimmick, kind of just feel the same. Oh, and by the way, we meet the worst boss in the game, out of the main ones that is, an egg submarine. This thing's annoying because while it's very possible to never get hit during it, the water physics make jumping into the part that you have to hit on Eggman very annoying. In terms of attacks, all this guy does is move left and right a bit, occasionally firing a harpoon. If you're on the floor, he fires the harpoon at the ground, causing an air bubble to spawn. That's how you don't drown in this level. The developers actually thought about that. However, if you're jumping when he fires that harpoon, it'll just go straight ahead and attempt to hit you. It's not a very hard boss in concept, but controlling it is an entirely different matter than it is watching it. But yeah, Blumarine, I hate this area. I always skip it if I'm ever playing this game in like the blue moon I am. And I don't like the boss fight either. And yeah, that's another thing. You don't actually have drowning music. Yet again, the GameCube games just don't have a drowning theme for some reason. I know the reason that they have an entirely different theme for the speed shoots and such in a lot of these games, instead of just speeding up the music like the Genesis games would, is because they couldn't quite handle speeding up the music. But no drowning music, really? Would it be? Then again, like I said, they maybe already filled the cartridge at the point they got to this point, so who knows? Also, it's really just a very minor distracting thing about this game, by the way, is that they blatantly reuse the same sound effect for damaging Eggman throughout all the Game Gear games. It's always that little ding sound effect. Also, that's a really lopsided bubble. And he's down. And with that, we're out of Blumarine. Thank God I hate this area. And with that, we're on to the final of the 5 zones. Yeah, we're there already. And if you can't tell by the fact that there's still 10 minutes-ish left in this video, this place is kind of long. Welcome to Silver Castle. The first act's gimmick is very simple. First off, in all the stages, basically, there are these little turn wheels that you need to turn around and around just so you can power up everything in the area you're in. But the main gimmick for Act 1 in particular is teleporters. They are all over the place in this stage, and they all lead to a different place. I know the direct way to get to the exit, so I'm just going to head there immediately, but on your first playthrough, you might end up wandering around a bit in this area just because there's so many paths. Oh, hey, a shield. That was worthless. This section's a bit hard to tell what's going on, because the screen freezes for a second, but then you have free control. What's happening is that the spiked wall behind you is starting to chase you. Very similarly to anyone who's played this very random Mario World hack. Brutal Mario World. We'll recognize it kind of like the Demon Wall boss fight in that game. That was a very ambitious hack. I need to finish it at some point, because I remember some really stupid stuff got in my way. I think it was like the Dr. Wily fight or something. And we're already on the Silver Castle too, which is a bit different in its gimmick. It's very much an open level. Like Blumarine Act 2, it's very much a labyrinth, actually. and you have to find out where to go. However, to get to the Chaos Emerald, we want to stick along the top path at first, and at this next jump, hold right. Hold right now, and make it, and you're good. At this point, just follow the path through the teleporter and you'll find the special stage, no problem. However, I must reiterate, if you fail a special stage once, you're screwed out of the good ending because there's only 5 ways to get Chaos Emeralds, and there's only 5 zones. Meaning, one shot, otherwise you're screwed. And I'm not sure the exact amount of special stages this place has. I want to say it's around 60, though. Not much. Actually, you know what? Sonic Retro probably has that idea in it. No, it does not. A good strategy to figure out where you should be going is constantly mashing the pause button, actually. You saw me do it for a second there. Just so you can get a grasp on where you have to go coming up in order to, you know, get the rings you need. I have very often finished this special stage with exactly 49 rings, and that is very heartbreaking when it happens. But thankfully this time around, I got 55. And that's the last Chaos Emerald. Yeah, that was very anticlimactic, wasn't it? And now we're back at the beginning of the stage, so now we can actually take the proper route. We actually want to go back the way we were heading towards the Chaos Emerald, except instead of holding right at that jump, we want to head down towards the floor. And another spike wall section. I do at least want to compliment them for trying to think of different ways they can make the stages interesting, but they only tried and very often did not succeed. Heck, they very lazily even reused a zone name. Green Hill is the first zone again. I'm not sure if that's just because they're tributing or because they were like, do we use it again because we're lazy? Yeah, why not? Mind you, if you couldn't tell, all the zones in this game are named after colors. Green Hill, Blue Marine, Yellow Desert, Red Volcano, Silver Castle. Okay, that's a spike wall on my face. The best way to conquer these spike wall sections is actually to start off with a spin dash, so that way you can have necessary speed going into the section where you actually have control. Also, some of the enemies in this stage are dicks. The jumping ones and the spike ones have a much larger hitbox than they would appear, and it's very easy to get hit by them. And here's more of these turnstiles where we have to power them up. You do need to do this, otherwise certain things won't be powered up, and thus you won't be able to progress. They're not that bad, though this next one's actually kind of a dick because you're surrounded by spikes. I do believe you can make them turn in any direction you want in order to give them power. I just prefer to make them go down towards the right because then I'm closer to the exit. And yeah, that's about it. Honestly, Sonic Blast, once you have everything out of the way, it's not a very interesting game. Thankfully, we are at the end of Act 2. And Act 3 is very short, even compared to some of the previous Act 3s. I think there is more level to it than I usually do, but I just go right for the nearby teleporter towards the start of the stage that allows us to access the final boss. In fact, there it is right there on screen. I think if you go to the left, there's more stage, but honestly, it's just not really worth it. And now it's time for the first form of the final boss, which is the form that everyone fights no matter what if you didn't get all the Chaos Emeralds. The way this works is that you're on a giant wheel. Pressing to the right makes the platform above you move left, and vice versa. Your goal is to reflect the lasers that Eggman is shooting on the extreme left and the extreme right of the platform's belt. And to time it so you don't get hit by those lasers. You can jump over them, and honestly, this fight's very easy once you realize the trick. You do have control over the platform even when you're not on screen, so that's the way you have to keep up with Eggman. It is very easy, and honestly not very interesting. The concept of a Chaos Emerald exclusive final boss reminds me a lot of this game's partner, Sonic 3D Blast, because you get an extra final boss for doing that. Mind you, I think Sonic 3 technically did that first, but I like to hold that game and these two separately because that game is severely much superior. This fight isn't even that interesting at the end of the day either. Mind you, that's how you can define the entire game, isn't it? Huh. A lot of these bosses take a bit too much damage, too. Some of them taking upwards of, I want to say, 10 plus hits. But thankfully, Phase 1 is down, and now it's time for the best ending exclusive final boss. Or is it? Yeah, weirdly enough, they play a score section here, which I don't get, because this happens. Okay. And true final boss is a giant egg. That's kind of fitting. The way this fight works is that you need to jump on the platform in the center, which will cause the arrow to show up on the little window on Eggman's top mech there. And it's at the point where the arrow shows up that you can jump on the top of that egg, not the sides or the bottom, the top, and damage him. The spikes on the sides of him, up to the top, left and right, and the ones on the bottom do damage you, so this fight sucks. However, you might notice I have rings. The moment you enter this fight, you're actually given 99 rings. Why? I'm guessing because they know you're gonna get hits, so here's a free 10 hits, pretty much. I don't believe the spikes on the bottom platform can hurt you at all. Besides that, all you have to worry about is dodging the energy pellets, which he drops 2 on the sides at any given time. And then when you hit him, he'll drop 2 on each side that you can dodge just by standing in the middle of said side. After enough hits, he will enter what is technically Phase 2 of this fight, which is not very different from Phase 1. It's just the fact that now the platform on the bottom will actually end up moving, like so. I do believe he moves slightly slower in this phase, especially once he starts getting lower in HP. I think I've noticed him getting slower. But honestly, this fight sucks either way. Not a fan of it. But yet again, that's basically the entire game. And I'm out of things to talk about. This boss fight can drag on for a bit, actually. I'm kind of surprised about one thing with this fight, though, and that's the fact that the bottom platform can't crush you against the left and right side of the screen. It looks like it should be doing that, but it doesn't for some reason. This fight also has a bit too much health. I mean, sure, a final boss should have some meat to him, don't get me wrong, but... a bit too much for a game like this, I'd say. And that's Endgame. Whoa. And that's Sonic Blast. It's not very interesting, the stages are pretty boring, the music is pretty forgettable, and the physics are horrible. It's not a very good game, I honestly don't recommend it that much. However, if for some reason you want to play it, it is on the Game Gear, the Master System, recommend the Game Gear port over the Master System port, Sonic Adventure DX, the Sonic Mega Collections, and Virtual Console for the 3DS. And honestly, what a pretty pathetic way for Sonic to go out on the Game Gear. I mean, there were some really strong Sonic Game Gear games, but they just couldn't keep up the quality for long, I guess. However, with that, we're not done with the Game Gear-a-thon just yet. There's about 1 or 2 more games I want to play before I end it off. And there's one more Game Gear game after that I'll be doing later on, because I want to hold off on that damn game as long as possible, because I do not want to touch it anytime soon. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, have a great night, and take care, and I'll see you guys next Let's Play, whatever that may be. See you guys then.